Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are not new here, if you are new here, welcome to my channel, I suppose. I am Mary. I make videos on all sorts of stuff, really whatever I want to talk about. But specifically, I guess I do a lot of topics on humanity and issues that humans face, just in general. But I also do some other content like creative cinematography type stuff for funsies, I guess. Yeah, cool. Today, as the title suggests, I will be talking about platonic friendships and platonic affection and the loss thereof. Go ahead, like and subscribe if you must. I'm not stopping you. And before we get into anything, I'm really into words, and I like learning about the etymology of words and the definitions of words. And anytime I make a video where I use terminology, I like to define the terminology before we begin so that you and me, we're kind of on the same page. We're talking about the same thing. So first, platonic, of relationships. I don't know why I did that. It's true. It's of relationships. That's not. Intimate and affectionate, but not sexual. It's free of romantic undertones or overtones. And while it can be very intimate, it does not mean that something else is going on. And then the other word is intimacy or intimate, which is just close familiarity or friendship, a closeness. So those are the two words I wanted to define because we will be using both of those quite a bit. I wanted to talk about this because we have grown into a society that has forgotten to love and cherish, as Cody would say on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. We have forgotten to love and cherish our platonic relationships. We simply don't devote the same amount of effort and attention to them as we do to finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We don't nurture our friends like we nurture the potential one. I'm going to do this every time I say one or the one. And to be quite honest, it's one of the greatest crimes against humanity, in my opinion. I don't know if it's a Western thing, because I know, as we'll touch on later, there are other countries that hold a different view on platonic relationship, and specifically physical affection between platonic relationships. But it's a tragedy, at least here in the US, because I can only speak to the West, really, that we've neglected it. We've truly lost sight of something precious to life, and we don't even realize how deeply it's affected us because we have tunnel vision. We have been trained by those around us, by entertainment, to believe that finding the one is life's number one goal, and everyone else are just placeholders. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself, so you're watching a new show. It's a very popular show that all of your friends are talking about, and it's taking the internet by storm. The characters are great, the story is intriguing, everyone loves it, and you have become obsessed. What, pray tell, would you do if, say, two characters on this show, boy, girl, girl, doesn't matter, two friend, platonic characters, had a deep, intimate moment? Remember what we talked about, what intimate means? It's just closeness, friendship. If they had an intimate moment, a deep, intimate conversation, where they talk about whatever. Maybe it's talking about their life, their feelings, their pain and trauma. Maybe they're pledging to one another to protect, to take care of each other. What would you do? What would your first thought be? Would it be, wow, what a beautiful depiction of friendship. A healthy, lovely example of good friendship. Or, and be honest, would you say, I ship them? Because I know for a fact, so many of you, I don't know if it's you watching or you adjacent, whatever that means, you would immediately run to X or Tumblr or Instagram and type blank X blank fan art or blank X blank fan fiction, and I know for a fact that you know what kind of fan fiction I'm talking about. Okay, it's not fan fiction between friends, it's fan fiction depicting you may even make your own fan art or fan fiction about said characters. But the fact is, it doesn't matter who it's coming from, there will always be somebody who sees something platonic and immediately read into it something that was not intended. Something false to fit your fantasy of what you would prefer it to be. And I want to make it clear that it's not wrong. I too have done this. It's not always a result of intentional neglect of friendship, right? We enjoy love. We do. Sometimes it's just fun to try to make something of something using the scraps we've been given. It's also fun to explore all avenues of thought. Maybe a writer is trying to build a foundation for this relationship to blossom into something else in the future, and by piecing the pieces together now and figuring out all that now, you feel clever. You feel like you're in on an inside joke. Of course, that's all true. I take part in that. I also like being like, ooh, they're cute. I wonder if something's going to happen. But based on my own observation, this is so often taken too far, to the extreme, to the point where I can't Google said characters' names without an onslaught of radical headcanons coupling them, just hitting me. It's theorizing on their sexuality and deeper meanings and whatnot. It totally takes away from the goodness that we're meant to observe from the original context. Now, that wonderful depiction of friendship has been contorted by an entire fan base just to satisfy their own longing for romance. It comes back to where we put the emphasis in our own lives. If we placed more emphasis on the importance of friendship, I don't think we would be seeing as much of this in turn. But the truth is, you ask pretty much any unmarried person, not all, there are exceptions, but you ask them, what's your greatest desire in life? And they'll say, to find my person, to find the one. We have romanticized romance itself so much that you are considered less than or sick if you're single. A man could be 40 with literally all the friends in the world, good friends that lift him up and encourage him, and yet, if he says he's single, we'll instantly feel a sense of pity for him. Or worse, we'll judge him as if he's doing something wrong, like it's his fault. Biologically, I'll admit, biologically, we want a spouse. It's innate in us. It's in our biology. But of course, because of that, we're gonna have a little bit of tunnel vision when it comes to this topic. Because we have this desire in us to marry. It can be overwhelming when you have these feelings that are just intense and they're not being met. I get that. We can become bitter at the fact that we're still single, and that bitterness and fear can lead us down a path of choices that are not good for us. So because of this, it's really easy to project our own desires into anything. We want to experience that closeness that other people have, so we live vicariously through those people, whether they're real or fake, whether it's already there or we have to make it up. I have these feelings too sometimes. I'm not above these feelings. I'm not above biology. I'm not above the innate desire for a spouse. But this mindset just is not healthy when you dwell in it long term. If you can't keep yourself from injecting something sexual between two people who are simply connecting on a human level, then you have a skewed sense of relationships. It's easy and somewhat harmless to do when it's, with fictional characters, although I still believe it takes away from the greater impact fictional friendships can offer. It's not as bad when it's between fictional characters. However, when you start to apply this to real people, human beings, that's when it becomes really dangerous. I read a book that touched on this topic briefly a little while ago, and this book actually helped spawn a lot of my thoughts for this video. It was talking about a certain commemoration a few years ago it was in the UK, it was for the 100-year anniversary of the First World War I outbreak, in which diaries and letters of soldiers were read. These letters held depictions of experiences of the deep friendships and bonds created in war between the soldiers, between the men. These experiences were forged through terrors and strengthened in camaraderie. But in response to this touching display of shared humanity between men in a moment of fear and insecurity where many people were dying, there were many people saying, well, they were obviously gay, because any deep affection must be rooted in something sexual. Duh. I wholeheartedly disagree with this. I think most people should, and I think most people say they would, but then their actions would be hypocritical to that, because it is factually false. It diminishes the greater impact the relationships between these men could have, not only if it had happened in the moment between the men, but now, looking back on it. It just diminishes the humanity in it by boiling it down to something biological and sexual. There is so much in life to be found in platonic friendships, in brotherly affection. It's totally foreign to people because they mistake it for something that it's not. And you wonder why you're lacking in the friendship department? Immediately after this section in the book is a C.S. Lewis quote. Those who cannot conceive friendship as substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros, betrays the fact that they have never had a friend. That our culture imagines that intimacy occurs only in the context of sexual attraction goes to show how little our culture actually understands and really experiences true friendship. Because intimacy is not only found in the sexual and romantic, despite what a lot of people might believe. And maybe this is loosely backed up by the fact that men today are widely viewed as being lonelier than ever, lacking in what they would consider true friendship. Women too, of course. Everything is just too shallow with an overcast of romance. Like, we can't go one interaction with someone without broaching the topic. Like it's the thing that matters most at all times. Men are wary of showing affection towards each other out of fear that someone will label them something that they're not. They'll call them gay. They'll say they're fruity. And it just isn't healthy. What is this conveying to men who hear this? They can't be vulnerable or close with another guy, lest they be labeled something that they're not? So what happens in turn? They distance themselves from each other. 5 feet apart, because we're not gay, right? How we talk about relationships as a society impacts how people act in response. You can't accuse someone of something, whether your intentions are good or bad, based on one innocent thing, and not expect them to change how they act in the future. The result is what we're seeing now. We have to stop reading into every single interaction people have with one another because it's creating a barrier between true connection. C.S. Lewis, again, love that guy, is known for being a close friend with Tolkien. Both are literary legends. You can't deny that. Would we look back on their interactions and arrive at the conclusion of homoerotic? Or simply that they were just two men with shared interests that connected on a deep level? Our answer changes how we view them and how we view their work. Look at Jonathan and David in the Bible. Lots of people have theorized that they were gay. Simply, and listen to this, simply because they were depicted as being deeply connected to each other. There's nothing in the passage or in the historical context that would lead us to believe that the two of them were sleeping with each other. Nothing whatsoever. Except for the lens in which we read it through. And our modern lens is that anything intimate is inherently sexual. By the way, I love the story of David and Jonathan. 2 Samuel is my favorite book in the Bible by far, and the way that their relationship is depicted is just amazing. I highly suggest you check it out. But you see two men holding hands in the street, and your first thought is gay. It can be in a big city like New York or LA or even in your small town. But in Arab countries, in North Africa, in certain Asian cultures, in the Mediterranean, guys will hold hands, just walking down the street, la 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 la, as a form of friendship and respect. People in those countries don't automatically jump to the assumption that they love each other, because that's just not what their culture does. And I mean, if you think having An intimate conversation automatically gives way to the possibility that two people could, be in love. Then don't even think about the physical affection between friends being platonic, spooky. The slightest touch could be taken out of context. It's normal. It's a friend thing. And even in America, sometimes you'll see two girls holding hands in the street and you're like, are they a couple? I mean, not that it's any of your business, but it's our natural thought processes. We have to see patterns and come to a conclusion based on those patterns because that's just what's natural to us. And those, stop it. And whatever conclusion we arrive at is inherently influenced by our culture and by what we have been raised and trained to believe. It's rammed down our throat so much here in the West through our movies and our books and our entertainment that we cannot fathom any kind of physical affection to be something other than romantic or sexual. We just cannot comprehend that that's a possibility. We're obsessed with the idea of romance and the one and sex, that we're obsessed with the idea of romance and the one, that it has literally corrupted how we view any interaction between people. Like, please, for everything good and holy, leave Steve and Bucky alone for 1 second. They're just friends. Sorry. I totally forgot to add this in while I was filming, but K-pop. I enjoy K-pop. I enjoy groups and stuff. There's a reason why certain groups don't interact, because they know that these fans cannot help themselves and they will insinuate any little thing. You want girl groups to interact with boy groups, but you give them a high five, you look at them, oh my gosh, they must have a crush on each other. When maybe they're just friends. Anyway, K-pop is really bad with this. And all of this is coming from someone who is not a fan of physical affection. Don't touch me. I don't want to be touched. I don't want hugs. I don't want you to rub my back. I don't want that. We need to change how we view affection because it is tarnishing our view of friendship. And it starts with placing a greater emphasis on the importance of platonic relationships. We need to start understanding and living like our friends are just as important as our potential life partner. And that, my friends, is all I've got for you today. This is a topic that I have been very passionate about for pretty much, my entire life. I was 2 years old preaching about the importance of friendships. No, in all seriousness, I do genuinely care about the topic a lot. At the end of the day, my goal here is not to give you a pretty packaged answer to this issue. I couldn't do that even if I tried. My goal is to simply kickstart your thoughts on the issue and to generate a discussion about it. But if you stayed till now, I greatly appreciate it. There are some cool looking buttons down there that might interest you, and you're always welcome to share your thoughts in the comments on the issue down below. I enjoy reading them, even if I don't always agree. I do try to read them all. In fact, I am so small that I do read them all, because I get about 5 comments. Not above my pay grade to read them all. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's been real dandy. Until next time.